Hey guys, you've heard of the Young Turks podcast because you're listening to it right now. But make sure that you subscribe and give it a 5-star rating if you like it. Thank you for listening. Drop it. All right, power panel, obviously. Cenk Uygur, John Iadarola, Nando Vila. Nando, great to have you back.
Thanks.
That
Thanks for having me.
is such a wonderful brown suit.
Oh, thank you. I'm bringing it back, the brown suit.
Yeah.
It's like a 70s thing.
You could be impeached.
It went out, it's true. Very true.
I've got a brown jacket. I should bring it back.
Yeah, you should bring it back.
Wait, you are glossing over, not only is it a brown suit, but it's double-breasted.
Yeah, bringing it back.
Oh, no, I'm bringing double-breasted back.
Yeah.
The new one I have that we talked about on the show a couple of weeks ago, double-breasted.
Really? I've never owned a jacket.
You should get into it.
Yeah.
It's in a way more comfortable. It's like you snug. You don't have to open it up and close it when you sit down. You just keep it closed.
Yeah,
I never thought about that. That's a selling point right there. Okay.
Unless you weigh what I weigh, in which case it helps cover up the gut without buttoning up.
That's true.
Oh.
Well, that'll benefit me right now, and in a year, that'll benefit me too. So.
Indeed. All right, guys, you're going to be shocked to find out that Trump's in trouble. We have more developments. What do you do this time? Right, exactly. One of my favorite stories today is the Justice Department's excuses for not investigating Donald Trump. I find them unsurprisingly hilarious. And then in the second hour, are we allowed to call people who fly the Confederate flag white trash? Or are we not allowed to call them that? And so we will debate, okay?
It's interesting.
Yes, indeed. All right, but let's get started with Trump trouble.
I really just want to know, is that based on a story or is that just like, hey, let's debate it?
Yeah, just out of nowhere.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
okay.
Mainly on a story, mainly.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, well, we're a slightly different topic to start off.
Yes.
It does involve Trump, and he is in fact in trouble. So ever since we found out about the Ukraine call and the whistleblower bringing to the attention of the whistleblower's superiors concerns about what took place on that phone call, we have wondered why is it that the DOJ didn't look more seriously into what was, at least initially it seems like, by those superiors considered to be a serious matter, a credible concern that crimes might have taken place. Well, those concerns now are even more pressing because it looks like there was a pretty important referral to the DOJ. Weeks before the whistleblower's complaint became public, the CIA's top lawyer made what she considered to be a criminal referral to the Justice Department about the whistleblower's allegations that President Donald Trump abused his office in pressuring the Ukrainian president. US officials familiar with the matter tell NBC News. That move by the CIA's general counsel, Trump appointee Courtney Simmons Elwood, that's how the deep state gets you, by your appointees, meant she and other senior officials had concluded a potential crime had been committed. And according to officials, Elwood was acting under rules that a report must occur if there's a reasonable basis to the allegations defined as, quote, facts and circumstances that would cause a person of reasonable caution to believe that a crime has been, is being, or will be committed. Or maybe all three of those things. And yet, it was squashed.
Yeah. So a couple of reasons why from the Justice Department, and I'm deeply amused. So the first issue that comes up is campaign finance violations, because there are two possible crimes here, and apparently the CIA's lawyer referred to campaign finance crimes predominantly because the first crime is just asking for a favor for your political campaign from a foreign country is illegal. We've explained that 1,000 times now. It still hasn't gotten through to a lot of people. Although Tucker Carlson today on Fox, well, on his own blog was like, kind of problematic, right? So it's getting through to some folks. Anyway, so the second part is, well, if it was a quid pro quo and something was, promised in return, then it could be extortion, bribery, fraud, and a lot of different other crimes. And so Justice Department goes, well, you only said campaign finance, so that's the only one we're gonna look at. And normally what happens is you go to, once some issue arises, you go then investigate all the facts and determine if any crimes have been committed. They said, no, we're not going to do that. We're only going to look at the thing that you mentioned. and then we're going to conclude 100%, no matter what the facts are, that it's not a crime. Now, why do I say that? Because when they move to the second stage, they're like, no, we're not looking at all the facts. We're not looking at all potential crimes. You said campaign finance. That's the only thing I'm looking at. Now, when I look at that, I go, well, yes, he definitely asked a foreign government. There's no question about that. Yes, he definitely mentioned his political opponent. And at the time, Trump publicly had said 5 days after the Ukraine call that he thought Biden was gonna win and be the nominee on the Democratic side. He very well might be wrong about that. I think he is wrong about that, but that is what he believed, right? So there's no question about any of that. And he's soliciting help from, so it's clear violation. So Justice Department is like, well, you have to solicit either money or a thing of value. And is a giant investigation by a foreign government a thing of value? No. No, all it would take is $1. How are they gonna do a giant investigation of Trump's political opponent without spending $1? Okay, it doesn't make any sense at all. They're like, it doesn't have to. The Attorney General is William Barr. His job is to cover Trump's ass. So they're like, and we're done with it. And they wrapped it up.
Well, to be fair, the Ukrainian ruble, I don't know, it might be, it's unclear whether, how, dollar goes a long way in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one point just to raise really quickly before I have a particular concern about it being squashed in the way that it was, but isn't it just great that this criminal referral had to come from the CIA's top lawyer? That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's like,
couldn't we just have
what's the day-to-day work of the CIA's top lawyer? Like outside of covering up Trump's crimes or the whistleblower or whatever.
Yeah. Someone could tell us, but then they'd have to kill us.
Right, exactly.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, look, but the reason the CIA's top lawyer is doing it is because the Justice Department isn't doing it. Normally, it's the job of the Justice Department.
Yeah.
And then normally the CIA's top lawyer is covering up, extraordinary renditions and kidnappings and torture, etc. But in this case, and it's a Trump appointee, they're like, yeah, but this is kind of really illegal and it doesn't look like you guys are gonna do anything about it. So I have to go through a formal process here and at least report it as illegal.
This has been William Barr's MO his whole life. Like that's like, he covered up the Iran-Contra stuff when he was the AG over there under Bush Padre. He's one of those guys, like if you guys see the movie, the Vice movie, the Dick Cheney movie, where he's like executive power absolutist, like legal theorists.
That's right.
That think that, that basically the president can't commit a crime by definition. And that's probably why he's there in the first place.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like it's very easy to get wrapped up in the news of the day and the week and the month or whatever, but like how many shows did we do sitting at this desk about why he could not become the AG? We knew why he was being selected and we knew what he would do if he got into the position, and what do you know? Turns out that we were right. And especially in this particular case, we've seen the whistleblower complaint. It names Trump, obviously, it names Rudy Giuliani, and it names William Barr. How could he? I mean, they're saying it was one of his subordinates that squashed it. He probably never even heard about it, I'm sure.
Oh no.
How is that legal? That's the clearest conflict of interest. He destroys an investigation in which he is apparently a participant, a scandal that he's a participant in. How, like, and I've been saying since this first came out, like, yes, push for impeachment of Donald Trump. Remove William Barr immediately. How is that not a bigger part of this conversation?
I mean, at a bare minimum, he has to recuse himself from a case where he could be one of the people charged. I mean, it's like law 101. There's no, but it doesn't matter because they've decided their own base doesn't care about facts, and then the Republican senators are so afraid of their own base, they don't care about facts. But there's one other funny part to this, or actually two. So when basically folks inquired about, like, did you guys look into whether Ukraine could do an investigation of Joe Biden without spending any money? Or how much money would they have to spend to look into Joe Biden? The Justice Department's like, no, we didn't look at that. Okay, it was inconvenient, but still not the funniest. Another excuse that they used was, well, the CIA's top lawyer called us and made this criminal referral, but she didn't put it in writing.
That's why you always send the follow-up email.
Yeah.
Just this is what we spoke about.
The CIA doesn't send emails. They know that stuff's being read by those guys at the NSA.
Could you imagine? They're like those guys at the NSA, man. They're reading everything. It's a bunch of people looking into everything and outrageous. Anyways, I like that the Justice Department's like, no, we're a stickler for the law.
Right.
So it had to be in writing. By the way, it doesn't have to be in writing. That's not any part of the law. It's just another very, very flimsy excuse. Look, the only thing you could say anymore that's anywhere near honest if you're a Republican, and Tucker went half of the way there today, we'll talk about that later in the show, is just say, look, come on, it's obviously illegal, but I don't care. And say like, it's a small crime. What's the big deal? Sure, ask Iran, North Korea, Russia, China, Ukraine, anyone you like, Venezuela, Cuba, for assistance, and do as much damage as you can to political opponents. Small crime, don't care. Okay, if you think it's a small crime and you don't care, that doesn't change the law. We still have to uphold it. And part of that would be to say, yeah, the president's kind of above the law. And let's keep it real here, guys. Any regular person would have gotten charged on at least half a dozen things that Trump has done while in office already. I get that it's a higher bar for the president because you get into a political mess, etc. And I actually somewhat agree with that. Like, so when Clinton lied on the record about sleeping with Monica Lewinsky, yeah, okay, there should be some penalty for that because he broke the law. The penalty shouldn't necessarily be impeachment. But I would argue this is a very significant crime. Otherwise, there are no rules. So then the Democrats can go, like I said, say, hey, North Korea, can you bug my political opponents? Remember, North Korea broke into Sony and got all their records. So we could bug them, or you know what, just break into their computers like apparently Russia did to Hillary Clinton. But just do it to Republicans, who cares? Let's break into all their computers, steal all their files, see if they got any naked pictures, see what they're looking at, because it's open season. There are no laws anymore. I think it's a pretty major law, and he 100% broke it.
Yeah. You wanna move on to another story?
Yes.
Okay, this one's fun in a weird way, I guess, a little. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez holds monthly town halls for her constituents, and so she did that this week. And for the most part, it was what you would expect, but the topic of climate change came up, and the conversation around how we should deal with it went in an unexpected direction, as you'll see.
The climate crisis, we only have a few months left. I love that you support the Green Deal, but it's not getting rid of fossil fuel. It's not going to solve the problem fast enough. A Swedish professor saying we can eat dead people, but that's not fast enough. So I think your next campaign slogan has to be this: we got to start eating babies. We don't have enough time. There's too much CO2. All of you're a pollutant. Too much CO2. We have to start now, please. You are so great. I'm so happy that you're really supporting the Green Deal, but it's not enough. Even if we would bomb Russia, we still have too many people, too much pollution.
Thank you. So I think, so one of the things that's very important to us is that we need to treat the climate crisis with the urgency that it does present.
And she goes on to say, thankfully, we have more than a few months. So she's obviously not signing on to that plan. Now, I think anybody seeing that thinks that one of two things is true. One, that she went on Twitter and started talking about that she wanted to be respectful of this individual because there's a reasonable chance that this person is having some sort of mental health difficulties. And it's not AOC's job to hurl a chair at her or get her dragged away by security immediately. So she wanted to be respectful of it. The other possibility, especially considering that this person is not just saying let's eat babies, but has prepared a t-shirt to advertise the cause, is that this is not an authentic constituent of AOC's. And what do you know, that's what it turns out to be.
Yeah, so apparently she's from Lyndon LaRouche's group.
They claimed responsibility for it.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so LaRouche Group is a conspiracy theorist, massively, insanely right wing. But actually, these days, that's probably mainstream Republican. Conspiracy theorist, massively right wing, does trolling on a regular basis. That describes an average Republican senator.
Yeah, and some of the things that they push for seem pretty crazy, but they're definitely more sane than the QAnon people. But in any event, they also, by the way, recently have supported Donald Trump. And so, look, you can say she should have dealt with it in a different way if you didn't know that this was a plant, I guess. I think that she did a great job in that respect. But if you are a completely disingenuous right winger, you're not gonna wait to find out a couple hours later if this was a real person or if this was a plant. You need to go. You gotta use this right now. And so that's what they did. Immediately videos of this, like Ryan Saavedra or whatever, they were spreading it and getting millions of views, implying that this is what AOC supporters are like. Tucker Carlson immediately put it onto his show last night, Fox News with articles, all that. And then Don Jr. tweets about it.
No, of course.
And let's see, so let's jump ahead a little bit. He tweets about it. He actually gets his father's attention for the first time in a while, who quote retweets him with AOC is a whack job. That's not even spelled right. So attacking AOC there, because in that video, what I see is AOC being crazy, I guess.
Yeah, what does he do?
Yeah, and so look, she responded, I think in a fairly reasonable way, saying better than being a criminal who betrays our country.
Yeah, so look, I've been put in situations, and I don't know if they were plants or not plants, or if they were just folks who were having issues, making outrageous, statements purportedly from the left in a public setting, and I usually say, I love your brother, but no, we shouldn't do that, that's a bad idea, right? But you could take that out of context and cut it at, I love your brother, and be like, see? Uygur loves people who eat babies, because the whole point is propaganda. So of course they're gonna use it as propaganda. And I don't know that Don Jr. and the president know that LaRouche did it, but what difference does it make? They wouldn't care. They wouldn't care if it was propaganda. They would love it, and they'd say, yeah, we trolled you. We're living free inside your head. No, whatever. Like today, that's Marco Rubio's claim for why Donald Trump is breaking laws, because he wants to get under your skin. Okay, him killing people would also get under my skin. It's not a good idea, right? And so they don't care about the truth. So what difference does it make? And people on the right now, a lot of them are like that. And in their town halls and in their public settings, if people make insane, outrageous comments like, Obama was not born in America, he was born in Kenya, with no facts at all. By the way, nowadays that seems kind of mild, right? Yeah, and the speaker, including the president of the United States, are like, bravo, that's right, your insane conspiracy theory is awesome. You don't have to trick the Republicans. The Republicans actually believe crazy things.
Yeah.
The weirdest thing about this is that this isn't even the weirdest right-wing plant this week. I mean, the Elizabeth Warren, you guys saw the Elizabeth Warren story where Jacob Wall said that he had a Marine who was a whistleblower who was saying that Elizabeth Warren basically sex trafficked him to be like her BDSM slave. And they did like a whole press conference about it. And it's like this is like the new reality where any sort of public setting for anyone is vulnerable to these kind of, James O'Keefe kind of started it back in the day, all that stuff like that, you can't really believe any of this stuff. And it creates this kind of ambient sense that nothing is really real. And that's like the most harmful thing about it at the end of the day, is that it just creates this like feeling of unreality, that everything's kind of a joke, that you can't really believe anything.
Well, and that's what they want, because that does not benefit and hurt everyone equally.
No, exactly.
That benefits, look, let's just cut right to it. It benefits fascists, honestly. That's the environment that you need to create for the rise of some form of authoritarian government. And you don't have to take it seriously. Like Jacob Wall and his Marine, they were like chuckling during it. They knew how ridiculous it was, but did that hurt Jacob Wall? Is he now like persona non grata on the right? They're not gonna talk to him? No, like the fact that this turned out to be a right-wing plant, does that matter? Did Ryan Saavedra or Don Jr. or Donald Trump, did they do a retraction? No. All over today, all over Twitter, it's no, that's a left-wing group. It's not a right-wing group, you're lying. It doesn't matter that they supported Donald Trump. That's actually a left-wing group. And hashtag eBabies was trending. A lot of it was ironic, making fun of them, but not all of it. And so, look, Fox News, let's jump ahead to the screenshot, had a big article, get rid of the babies. Distraught woman at AOC Town Hall urges eating babies to fight climate change. Like hours and hours and hours later, they did have an update. What percentage of the people that saw that you think you're gonna see the update?
Nah, zero, like infinitesimally small.
Exactly.
Yeah, so look, this is, unfortunately, the people at fault here is the mainstream media. I'm gonna explain why in a second. First, quick divergence. To be clear, the Elizabeth Warren thing that they did, The guy showed the scar from the BDSM thing. We talked about it in the post game yesterday. That's just for the members. Get all the details, tyt.com/join to become a member and get the extra half hour of the Young Turks every day. Anyway, there's a picture of the guy from Instagram in 2016, and he got it like in a weed whacking accident or something.
It's from a swing.
It's from a swing. That's what it's from.
Yeah, and you also get to see his XXX tattoo.
That's
a good reference.
That's a great movie franchise.
Right. To immortalize with your body.
And Elizabeth Warren went to University of Houston, so she did a hilarious tweet about that and went, "Go Cougars."
Yeah.
So now back to why it's the mainstream media's fault, because if you practice neutral journalism, not objective journalism, but neutral journalism and political correctness, and you're deathly afraid of calling out one of the political parties or either of the political parties, that greatly advantages liars. Because if you equate the truth with lies, well, then lies win. Because no, the whole point of journalism is to give you facts and the truth. So, but they're afraid to say, yeah, one side lies on a consistent basis, on purpose, repeatedly, never retracts it, and doesn't care about the truth. They just do it all the time. So Don, like John said, Don Jr. won't retract it, the president won't retract it, the president's lied 12,000 times. And it's not just him. I mean, even I read an old article today going back to McCain and Obama election back in 2008.
Yeah.
McCain's ads were disproportionately false compared to Obama's ads. Obama's ads also had some parts that were false, but McCain's were far more, right? And those were in the benign times before the Trump era. So the correct journalism should be one side lies way more than the other side, and here are the facts, here are the lies, etc. And you can compare the two. But they're deathly afraid of saying that.
Yeah.
And if you don't say that, well, then that gives fascists a giant advantage because they could lie with impunity and spread it out. Remember, guys, they don't have to convince everybody. These elections are so close normally, and certainly the last one was. They just have to swing a certain number of people, like maybe 78,000 people, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And if the media doesn't do their job and say one side is lying way more than the other side, then people go, oh, okay, I guess so. I mean, that's, and the media could swing people, not by being on the Democratic side, but by telling the truth and having the courage to say it. But instead, we get mamby-pamby BS, where they're deathly afraid to say that it is uneven. It is not equal. The right wing lies as a matter of course.
Yeah. Can we end on a positive note?
Yeah.
Because this is dark, rise of fascism and all that, and it's gonna happen, so just get ready for it. But we at least will have this. So if you get ready with the second to last graphic. So AOC, she stood up for herself, obviously, and it was great that someone else was watching this play out. This person was recovering from a surgery, is laid out in bed, but is watching, and speaks up in her defense, and I just love this. Bernie Sanders tweeting, it's going to be a real pleasure defeating you.
I love that too.
I just love
Young
him.
Bernard.
He's just sitting there getting his energy back.
Tweeting from the hospital bed, I love it.
Exactly.
Well, Zuckerberg yesterday said, yeah, maybe Bernie's right. Maybe there shouldn't be billionaires, right? Something along those lines. And I was like, this dude's kicking Zuckerberg's ass from a hospital bed. And they talk about like, well, has Bernie ever gotten anything done? Has anyone else ever gotten anything done? The only person pushing the national conversation is Bernie Sanders and getting one thing after another done. And so that's why they can't stand AOC. That's why they can't stand the Justice Democrats. That's why they can't stand Bernie Sanders, because they actually fight back and they actually get things done.
Yeah. Why don't we take a break?
Yep, let's do it. When we come back, more conservative madness.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of On the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFDR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Normally I start with the members, but I'm going to start with on Twitter today. Kara Curley says, that Bernie tweet so truly made a really bad day I was having a million times better.
I love it so much.
Yeah, there's a new ad out that's like 5 minutes of.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, the pundits trashing Bernie Sanders and the reality juxtaposed. Oh,
I actually teared up. I teared up when I watched it this morning.
Yeah. No, and especially with him going to the hospital, mainstream media was like, "Oh, he's done. It's over." Right? In unison. Meanwhile, I thought, Bernie. So we'll see. Orpheus says, I'll weigh in ahead of the story and discussion. I say that calling someone white trash, no matter the rationale, is antithetical to being an open, honest progressive. We can discuss the individual reasoning and query their value system, but not sling epithets. Well, we're gonna have a poll on that, although I now know which way you're voting. That's in the second hour, and thank you for weighing in, Orpheus. We appreciate it. Eddie O'Donnell says, thankfully AOC has bartending experience and is able to handle these kind of situations. So what was that about being a bartender doesn't qualify you for Congress again? That's true. She knows how to do clapbacks. And then Bailey writes in the member section, woo woo, what a great panel to Friday it up with. I love hearing John's commentary twice in one day.
Whoa.
Okay, you are alone, but I hear you.
Johnny 2 times.
I can't argue with that. I'm not interested in hearing myself twice.
No, I'm kidding. In fact, Jackson writes in, hey Cenk, my fiance Jessica and I are so excited to finally be getting married next weekend. With John in the studio, I wanted to let you know that every night while we have dinner, we watch that morning's episode of The Damage Report.
Thank you so much.
John, you were responsible for their relationship. That's beautiful.
I was assuming that I was responsible. It's good to have it confirmed. Thank you. And you're welcome.
And Jackson continues, it's part of our day we both always really look forward to. Thanks to John, JR, Brooke, Brett, and the whole Damage Report team for being a joyful part of our TYT home and TYT marriage. Cheers.
That is beautiful.
Well, congratulations, Jackson, and your fiance, Jessica. Jessica and Jackson, you guys are awesome.
And let me just quickly say that I can't speak for you, but you're right about to get married. I'm in the middle of planning a wedding, and so my heart goes out to you for that process.
It's all about the flowers, man. That's where they get you.
Yeah? I haven't looked at that part yet.
Yeah, this weekend I'm going to go to a quinceañera.
Ooh.
And I'm just dreading going to one, let alone planning one, because then in the middle of the weekend I have to find a suit and I have to put it on, I have to get the kids dressed up. I know, but I'm like, all that planning. Okay. Anyways, all right, let's go next.
Okay, we got a little grab back here, but some interesting information. Earlier this week, we found out that the Q3 fundraising numbers are in. Who amongst the Democratic primary contenders is doing better than expected? Who perhaps underperforming? And we know that Bernie Sanders destroyed the last quarter, bringing in $25 million. But we've been waiting for some of the other frontrunners. Biden didn't immediately release his numbers. We've been wanting to find out, how did Warren do? She's been doing better in the polling. Is she doing better in the fundraising as well? Well, former Vice President Joe Biden collected $15.2 million in political donations over the last quarter. The average donation this quarter was $44. So remember that for when we compare to the others. That is obviously a lot of money, but it is both $10 million less than Bernie Sanders and less money than he collected in the previous quarter, which is not indicative of a campaign on the upswing. Although that seems reasonable to me to say, I will check Nate Silver's Twitter account to find out why I'm wrong.
No, John, that's an aberration, and every poll showing Bernie Sanders doing well is also an aberration.
Yeah. You really want cyclical fundraising, up and down and down and down.
Yeah, and so, okay, seriously, guys, let me tell you why Biden and Buttigieg's fundraising numbers are going down. Now, Buttigieg still had healthy numbers. You'll see all of them in a second.
19 million.
Yeah, but they're both headed down. The reason is they have maxed out donors. So you give $2,800 in a primary, and they have really wealthy donors. So whether it's executives at different companies that are giving to them, lobbyists, etc. And so they max out as soon as they can. They're like, oh, these corporate guys are awesome, right? And so they give all their money, and then they legally cannot give anymore. Whereas Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren have real people giving to them, and at smaller numbers, and monthly contributions as well. So they keep on giving, and they've got so much room before they get to $2,800. I don't know that a lot of regular folks have $2,800 to give to a politician, even if they love them like they love Warren and Sanders. So that's why their numbers keep going up, because the monthly contributions get added on top of the new donations and the new monthly contributions, because they're all small dollar donors, just tons of them, right? Whereas Biden let's talk about Biden in particular, he's tapped out the rich guys. Yeah. So that's why his numbers are going down.
Yeah, that is likely. I saw a number I don't have this number for all of the candidates, but Bernie Sanders' campaign puts out that 99.9% of his donors have not tapped out. So
that's right.
He's doing okay so far. So that's Biden. So what about one of the other frontrunners? Warren's campaign reported that the Massachusetts senator raised $24.6 million for more than 500,000 donors in Q3. That amount is just shy of the haul by Bernie Sanders, who reported raising $25.3. So we have $700,000 difference between them. So fairly close, but a benefit to Bernie both in the overall numbers. But also Bernie had about twice as many donors overall. I mean, Warren had a lot. We could actually look at the numbers. Warren's average donation amount was $26. Sanders is 18. Her campaign said they have over 940,000 individual donations in the third quarter from about half as many donors, while the Sanders campaign reported 1.4 million individual donations in the same period.
That's so Warren and Sanders. They're both powered by a lot of small dollar donors, so that's great, and that's the way it should be. But hers are a little larger, making up for the fact that he has more of them, because
almost twice as many.
He's in the most populous lane. She's in the lane right next to it. So that's exactly what you would expect. And so they're both in great shape as those numbers continue to pile up. And if anything, those establishment Democrats are going to likely, given the dynamics we just explained, are going to continue to go down.
Yeah. But overall, I mean, there's still a few candidacies that we're waiting to find out about, and I've got one or two more important details here. But it looks like, I mean, unless Delaney just hauls it in, it looks like Bernie's the winner.
I mean, I've tapped out my Delaney donations. I've given $2,800 to Delaney. So
I think a lot of people have tapped out on his campaign.
I know.
Most of the staff probably.
Yeah, the only one who hasn't tapped out yet is still Delaney.
Yeah, I don't think his heart's in it. But anyway, so look, that's the numbers, and we've got one more candidate who did surprisingly well that I want to get to in a second. But in terms of future fundraising events, not personal fundraising, but involvement in DNC fundraising, there is a potential issue for some of these candidates. Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, Tom Steyer, and Julian Castro will be taking part in fundraising events in October that will benefit the DNC. Warren has sworn off having her campaign take part in big money fundraisers, but tickets for Warren's gala start at $5,000, and others can gain access by raising up to $50,000 for the party. So I would assume that she will say that this is not benefiting her campaign. It's to raise money for the DNC, but it is objectively a big dollar fundraiser.
Yeah. I think that's a tough one. So she's saying, I'm doing it to help the party. That's what you would want the candidate to do. On the other hand, the party is going to mainly put it back in the presidential race later, right? And not completely though, and it does help at the state level, it does help other candidates. And so they will criticize Bernie for not showing up to help the party, but he doesn't do the big fund.
They mostly waste it on stupid consultants and stuff. It's mostly wasted.
Yeah, well, that adjective is probably correct, but the more accurate adjective is connected consultants, ones that worked at the DNC before or know people at the DNC, etc. So I don't know how you guys feel about it. I'm mixed on it.
I would say the question is, who are you trying to appeal to at this thing? It is not suddenly wealthy, formerly regular people. It's the sort of people that you have banned from taking money from in your personal campaign, and you're lending your name to an event to try to draw in those sorts of people. And again, that money will likely maybe be spent on your behalf if you're the candidate. So, yeah, I get that she's probably under a lot of pressure, but I wouldn't take part in it.
And you wonder also, like, if the sort of the potentiality of a brokered convention plays into something like this. I mean, who the hell knows what's going to happen if there's a brokered convention? And in that scenario, probably making contacts with connected party people will help you, delegates, super delegates, all that stuff, where that can become critical. But who knows?
Yeah. So last couple of things here. We should also note Senator Warren put in over $10 million from her Senate campaign into her presidential campaign. And in her Senate campaign, she had raised money from big dollar donors. And some of those guys are actually pissed, saying, oh, well, you liked my money when you were running for Senate. You switched it over to your presidential campaign. Now you say I'm not good enough for you to appeal to me or call me back. Kind of like that they're pissed. But you should note that, yes, she did transfer some money into her presidential campaign from those big donors. Now, I got to give you the rest of the numbers because we don't want to pull a CNN, MSNBC. Sanders was 1, Warren was 2. You want to give it, John?
That's what I'm getting to, actually.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this is what you're talking about, right? Yeah. So look, Bernie Sanders with the biggest individual haul in Q3, but not the biggest increase percentage-wise, at a 257% quarterly jump from 2.8 million to 10 million in the third quarter. Andrew Yang posted the largest percentage gain in fundraising amongst all Democrats to report so far, and even topped the 19% quarterly gain by President Donald Trump's re-election campaign. So he jumped up to $10 million, and that is probably why, if you're watching CNN, MSNBC, you've suddenly seen his face all over the place, but you can't deny it. They respect people who can raise money. And so you see graphics like this pop up showing that, yes, Bernie's got the most money, but hey, wait, he's not there. Even though he raised $4 million more than Cory Booker, they decided to go with Cory Booker on that. Now, he later tweeted that MSNBC corrected that eventually, but it wasn't just MSNBC. You can also see on CNN, they did effectively the same thing. And this graphic, they fit in one more person, but not one more Yang. So they put in an extra person, but still kept the Cory Booker.
Yeah.
And so I would be incredibly frustrated by that, especially coming like a huge increase in your fundraising, and they don't acknowledge it.
This seems like a small story, but it's not. It's actually a huge story because it goes to the mindset of the mainstream media.
Yeah.
They have great disdain for outsiders, and they treat them as invisible. And God, this is the perfect example of it. The guy is higher than Booker, but they're like, no, he's illegitimate because he's an outsider. Whereas our beloved Senator Cory Booker, nice, bravo, 6 million. Well, the other guy raised 4 more, and out of nowhere, and you guys never treated him with any respect. Now he's doing better than your beloved Senator Cory Booker. By the way, Klobuchar, where is she? Anyway, you guys all said Klobuchar was about to win, could win. Yang, right? And all of a sudden, Yang's doing great, and you still leave him out of the story. It's not because they hate Andrew Yang. It's their mindset that the people in power are by definition legitimate, and the people outside of power are by definition illegitimate.
Yeah.
And that affects everything they do.
And part of the disdain they have for it is that they feel that power that gatekeeping power that they used to have, they feel it slipping away from them more and more every day, and it only causes them to hate these people even more.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at I don't know, there was like a funny Chris Cillizza tweet that everyone was dunking on the other day, where he was like, outside of Warren and Biden, who do you guys think has the best chance of winning the nomination? I think Buttigieg. And it's like everyone's like, dude, like he's like so far below in the polls from the other guy that's neck and neck with Biden and Warren, and they feel this in their bones. They feel that they just aren't. They don't have the gatekeeping role that they used to. I mean, the media used to control this narrative so much more than they do these days. Yeah. And if you look at the amount of fundraising, I mean, this is a huge story. The fact that fundraising for Democratic nominations and for the presidential campaigns has been so transformed by these small dollar donations because of the internet and because of a million things, that candidates can swear off big money donations and still lead the field in terms of in money raised, that's a huge game changer. I mean, from what you guys talk about all the time, like that this is a corrupting influence at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So because that is what matters the most. The most thing that matters is who do you owe your power to, and if you're getting your money for your campaign from small dollar regular people, then you will owe your power to them and you will govern for them. If you owe it to, executives at ExxonMobil, then you'll govern for them.
100%, guys. I gotta say, look, that bias is more important than any other effect on the election. Russian interference.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. All right, it's bad. As anyone knows, I'm 1,000,000,000% against it. Right? No one has been clearer on the record on that. But this is billions upon billions of dollars where outsiders, not people that are not yet powerful, people that are not in the elite, people that are progressive usually, are left out of the conversation, and they lose out on something really valuable, which is free media.
Yeah.
So, and then that's the beginning, and then the second part is where they attack you nonstop. So, obviously the most famous example is Bernie Sanders, and this happened to him in 2016. Like Yang with this remarkable rise. I mean, that is one of the most important, interesting political stories of this election cycle. They're like, yeah, but he doesn't even exist. Last time, Bernie closed a 60-point lead on Hillary Clinton. One of the most miraculous political stories of my lifetime. They're like, barely had him on television in 2015 as he closed that 60-point lead.
Yeah.
I mean, outrageous how they ignored him. And that cost them billions of dollars that Trump got on the other side. It swung the election definitively. And then after they couldn't ignore him anymore, negative article after negative article. And now look on Yang, a similar effect. So he has, look, and by the way, this is not about me liking one candidate more than another. I think Cory Booker has some good ideas. I think Andrew Yang has some great ideas. And there are parts of Booker and Yang that I don't agree with. So it's not, I'm not neutral on it, but I'm super fair on it in that it depends on the policies, etc. So when one of Yang's great ideas is democracy dollars. And he mentioned it in a debate. I was in the media spin room, and you know what happened?
No one asked him about it.
No, not only that, they laughed. They literally
thought it was ridiculous.
They laughed out loud. They're like, I do declare democracy dollars. And then all over Twitter, not people in the media, like they put Yang's face on monopoly money, etc. So stupid to try to empower people to give money instead of the wealthy and the elite. Dumb, right? In reality, people love that idea. It's a great idea. And so that's a different issue. That's the $1,000 he's giving for universal basic income. But and by the way, Kirsten Gillibrand also had democracy dollars in her campaign. They're like, ooh, that is a beloved senator. That is very serious, right?
I'm sorry, those are Gillabucks.
But that free media is single-handedly sustaining the Biden campaign at this point.
Yeah.
If you look at the number of mentions that he gets on cable news, it's a factor of like four times higher than the next person.
Yeah.
And it's like, you watch the debate, like we watched it the last debate, and then you see all the mainstream pundits saying, oh, I think he won the night. And I'm like, he couldn't even complete a full sentence. I don't understand, like, what you guys are, am I watching the same thing? And that's single-handedly sustaining his campaign right now, that aura of respectability or inevitability or whatever.
And final thing is, they are so biased that despite this overwhelming evidence, they say, what bias?
Right.
I don't see any bias.
Yeah.
You leave Yang out, of course. He said, Yang, of course you leave him out, right? Bernie closing a 60-point lead when we all thought he'd never get above 2%. Yeah, of course you leave that out. That's not an interesting story. Yeah. And they're like, what bias? That's when you know your bias is as bad as it could possibly be, when you're blinded by it.
Yeah.
All right, we got to take a break, guys. One more break.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your active AD more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired Magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today. We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back on the Young Turks. Teresa says, I'm a restaurant server and never get to see the Friday live show because I'm usually at work. But I got lucky tonight and I got the night off. Now my house is clean, wine is in hand, and I can smell the impeachment in the air. Happy Friday, everyone. Wow. Well, happy Friday to you too, Teresa. Okay, have a drink on me. 1988's Turk of the Year writes in. It's also working against Yang in the other direction because the pundits on TV are super interested in how Booker and Klobuchar are doing. They assume we feel the same way. We do not. That's why we're not voting for them either. Very good point. He doesn't get the free media, and they do, even though Klobuchar, for example, has not merited it at all. Nothing personal, she just hasn't. She has no support. And the last one, the Progressive Twin says, the Democratic Party wants progressives to go and raise money for them, but why? So then corrupt Democrats can turn around and spend it to bash whatever progressives on the left are doing the rest of the primary process? No thanks.
Oh,
okay.
I just want to mention one thing, just a fact I happened to see. Jessica Cisneros raised $459,000.
Wow.
That's incredible.
That is incredible.
To put it in perspective, across all of 2017, AOC raised $60,000.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
For a House primary race, that's like astronomical.
Average contribution, $32.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
We're gonna kick Cuellar's ass. Keep it going, guys. Cuellar has millions of dollars. He gets it from his corporate interests. So justicedemocrats.com/Jessica. By the way, next week on Old School, me, Ben, and Kevin Smith. So don't miss that.
Whoa.
So members get to see it live, and you get to see the whole thing. tyt.com/join to become a member.
Yeah, I didn't want to be on that episode.
Well,
I didn't love Jay
Ask him if he likes Return of the Jedi or Empire Strikes Back better.
Yeah, he's doing a reboot, by the way. That's why he's on.
Oh yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, we figured you didn't want to be on. That's why we didn't ask you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I believe this story. You thought of me.
A friend of mine's an actress, and she tweeted at him every single day for 478 days straight, asking to be in the movie, and he cast her.
Really?
Oh, that's right.
That's
well,
awesome.
I have an interesting similar story, which I'll tell on Old School.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'm gonna start doing that for the next Star Wars movie. Anyway, let's have a little bit of fun. Prepare for Cenk and I to disagree, because Tucker Carlson wants some cred in an article he wrote that he's one of the Republicans that's actually holding Donald Trump semi kind of accountable for this Ukraine scandal. So we've got him on video, we'll get to that in a second, but we also have some excerpts from his article on the Daily Caller, where I go to lose a little bit of my sanity. The article says, Donald Trump should not have been on the phone with a foreign head of state encouraging another country to investigate his political opponent, Joe Biden. Some Republicans are trying, but there's no way to spin this as a good idea. Like a lot of things Trump does, it was pretty over the top. Our leaders' official action should not be about politics. Those two things need to remain separate. Once those in control of our government use it to advance their political goals, we become just another of the world's many corrupt countries. America is better than that.
Okay, so
I'll have a little bit more, but feel free.
Yeah, first of all, look, I have been, I think, sufficiently vicious to Tucker Carlson on many occasions, including on this issue, because this is just part of what he says. On air, on Fox News, he has said that impeachment is basically a coup. So
he said coup.
Yeah, literally, that's the exact word he used. So basically in this article, he's admitting, yeah, Trump broke the law. And Republicans trying to spin it are absurd. Look, the reason why John and I guess will disagree is that I think that's really important for one of the top Fox News opinion hosts to say, yeah, it's wrong and it's absurd to try to spin it, because they live in an absurd world, and anything that pierces that bubble
and has people going, wait, is it absurd? I thought facts didn't matter. I thought the law didn't matter. But now Tucker's telling me the law matters. That's weird. And so I think that that's potentially important. On the other hand, he says, nah, don't worry about it. We're not gonna do anything about it. So, well, okay, then what other laws can he break? And I'm curious where he delineates, and I would literally like to ask him this. Where do you draw the line? And it's an interesting question. I don't even think that it's necessarily an easy question. If Trump was jaywalking, I don't think we should impeach him, right? He, maybe a serious traffic offense that might even be a misdemeanor. I don't know if you should impeach him, right? But this is a very serious law where you're jeopardizing the sanctity of our elections, because can then Democrats ask North Korea to bug people's phones, et cetera, or tap into their computers? So he doesn't answer any of those. He just basically goes, yeah, don't be absurd. Of course it's wrong, but don't worry about it.
Well, the line, where they would draw the line is when it would actually affect a Republican being in power. That's where they'll draw the line. That's true of any of these sort of like, I mean, Tucker Carlson isn't one of these, but like the sort of quote unquote never Trump Republicans, like they'll call him out or they'll say bad things about Trump or whatever. But like when the rubber hits the road, like if it were to hit the road and there was an actual moment in which he could conceivably lose power, they're not gonna go through with it.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons I think, maybe we don't disagree, but one of the reasons I think we disagree is, and feel free to correct me if I'm mischaracterizing what you're saying, is that he's saying on the one hand, don't do anything, but he's being big enough or independent enough or intellectually honest enough to acknowledge that it is actually wrong. Is that fair?
Yeah,
that's not what I think he's doing.
Oh, okay, what do you think?
I think he is very specifically saying, here is why I think it's wrong, to then recontextualize it in a way that ensures that his viewers or readers or whatever will never think that he should have any consequences for it. I think that this is just a rhetorical trick to bamboozle people into supporting illegal activity.
Yeah, then we do disagree. I don't think it's a rhetorical trick. Remember guys, it's on the Daily Caller, it's not on Fox News. He does, I'm curious to see if he does it tonight or if he ever does it on Fox News, because that'll rile people up. This is a way, I'm also skeptical of it, but in a different way. This is for him later, if Trump gets impeached, to say, hey, I wrote it was wrong.
That's a possibility.
I wrote it was wrong. Now, I didn't say it on Fox News. On Fox News, I called it a coup, right? So I can get my ratings and I can get and I don't want to burst anyone's bubble. We're all in the insane bubble where things are upside down world, and that's totally fine. But hey, look at me. I once wrote it in a blog no one reads.
Yeah.
Tucker's very clever. I mean, Tucker is way more clever than like someone like Hannity, who's just like a meathead.
I agree. Yeah.
Tucker's not a dummy by any stretch of the imagination, and he knows how to very selectively cherry pick left points of view to then sort of put him through his like weird processing in his mind and then spit it back out to Fox News viewers in a way that sort of benefits the right-wing agenda always, time and time again. I mean, he's very clever about doing that. I mean, you've seen him when he's criticized capitalism like on his show, and it's like, I'm like, what? But that's what he's doing. He's using selective arguments from the left here and there to sort of position himself as an independent voice when in reality, he is just as much of a propagandist as anyone else.
Yeah, and he is doing that to get his viewers to support, as he will support every Republican president for the rest of his life. So we can call it independent, it fulfills the same political objective. Here's the issue, he might be clever, but he's also a massive liar. So you're gonna see in the next paragraph, so we're skipping a little bit, it was some whataboutism about Obama spying on Trump or whatever. But then he goes to, the key question with Trump's Ukraine call though is whether the president's actions, advisable or not, rise to the level of an impeachable offense. It's hard to argue they do. The president did not, as was first reported, offer a quid pro quo to the Ukrainians. That is at the very least debatable. He did not condition any US support on a Biden investigation. So look, we can go to the summary of the call, and I would make the case that it's pretty clear from the way the argument proceeded that he was conditioning it on it. But we also know furthermore that from all of the texts that have come out that the other people who were dispatched, diplomats, members of the State Department, they were raising concerns over the fact that this was obviously a quid pro quo, that a trip for the Ukrainian president to come to the White House was explicitly conditioned on them investigating Biden. Tucker Carlson, what, did he just not pay attention to the news for 24 hours? He knows that. He's lying to his readers here.
Yeah, totally. Look, of course. So Pence was then sent to Ukraine to say, hey, I'm not giving you the aid yet. And remember, the thing we really care about is corruption. And like with the president, he never mentioned any Ukrainians in the corruption. Okay, the only time that, I mean, guys, look, this is why Tucker is being disingenuous. And unless you're in the MAGA cult, everyone knows we're right about this. Because you're telling me that Donald Trump has a genuine interest in the corruption happening in Ukraine and China. And he's really worried about it. It keeps him up at night. He's like, I wonder what's going on with Poroshenko, right? And what's going on with Xi Jinping, and to pick random names from those countries, right? Or not so random, and say, oh my God, have they gotten corruption under control in China? I'm really worried about it. Now, as it turns out, the only person I'm gonna mention when I talk about corruption is Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. You don't believe that, nobody believes that. Of course he's trying to investigate his political opponents, and he doesn't give a damn about corruption in Ukraine. And of course the money's held up because he wants them to investigate Biden. And the texts from the State Department prove it. You know who broke that story? Fox News. So Tucker knows it, everybody knows it. It's just they're playing games, and that's all. Yeah. And if this is Tucker, the upside is maybe it penetrates the bubble a little bit and have people go, well, yeah, I mean, common sense. I mean, it was wrong, right? Yeah. And that would be a big development. The other part of it it's a CYA operation. Cover your ass.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, and we'll see if it gets through to some of his readers. It won't get through to his viewers because last night, we can't play the full video, but he claimed that the Ukraine scandal is manufactured. So the same thing that he said in that graphic is, it's really concerning. He then goes on air and screams, this whole thing is manufactured by the Democrats. So a little bit of mixed messages there. And also in terms of, you mentioned the fact that he only brings up his political opponents. He was asked this morning, did you see on Chopper Talk? So he was asked by a reporter, have there been any cases where you asked them to investigate people who weren't your political opponents? And he said, we'll have to look into that.
That's amazing.
And by the way, okay, if when this story first broke, if he couldn't come up with one, fine. It's been like 2 weeks. He hasn't done any research to even come up with one to imply that he cared about.
Too lazy and too stupid. That's why I always say, tick, 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 tick. Okay, by the way, they asked Larry Kudlow, are you guys gonna bring up Biden in the trade talks when you're meeting with the Chinese? And he said, to be determined. He said, it's not going to be front and center, but I can't tell you whether it's gonna come up. In other words, I can't control Trump. Of course he's gonna go in there and tell the Chinese, if you wanna do a trade deal, give me Biden's head on a stick, right? Because he knows that the president is corrupt and uncontrollable.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we gotta go. Nando, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having
me, brother. Everybody check out Damage Report. And when we come back, one of the writers of Veep on the Power Panel. How's that for fun? We'll be right back. Thanks for listening to the full episode of the Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.